All right, when you're doing your flux, you want to make sure you have enough, but you don't want to have too much, you know? Yeah. Too much flux inside and outside of the joint will cause it to corrode eventually, and it will not last quite as long as a properly done fitting. Flux is acidic.
It burns.
That's why it burns you, yeah. Another big thing, when you're soldering, keep some gloves on. The oils from your fingers will affect your joint. Also, where do you put your flame?
Here.
So center of the joint, right? That's a big thing. I like to move it around a little bit. The other thing, heat rises, right? So I might keep it a little bit lower. When you're doing, right now we're doing vertical joints. When you're doing a horizontal joint, I usually start by heating it from the bottom, and I end heating it from the bottom, and I'll keep my torch, my solder up high, and I know that when this starts to melt, I know the entire joint is heated, right? Because I got it from the bottom, I'm starting from the bottom, and the heat has made its way all the way to the top. So it's just how I always did it. I'll definitely move it around a little bit, but for the most part. The big thing about these vertical joints is, why do they drip? Why do you get all that solder on the bottom?
Gravity.
Gravity, that's a good answer, but what does the flux do? Why do you put flux on?
So it can create like a seal with the...
No.
Or it melts.
Flux, it cleans the pipe and it pulls the solder, okay? It allows the solder to adhere, okay? When you heat this up, the flux drips down the pipe. The flux is designed, the solder follows the flux, right? That's the main reason. A, y'all are putting way too much solder. B, you're following the flux, okay? Now, you always want to have a terry cloth. Don't use a microfiber, it will melt on the pipe. You always want to have some sort of terry cloth rag, some sort of cloth rag when you're doing it. Another thing, now that we talked about using too much solder, when you're on this smaller stuff, this part of your finger is 1 inch, right? I've always been taught for a 3/4 joint, I use 3/4 inches of solder. For a 1/2 inch joint, I use a 1/2 inch of solder. So I use my finger as a measurement, and I know that this is a 3/4 inch joint, so I know that I'm gonna need about 1.5 inches of solder for both sides, right? So I'll create my 1.5 inches of solder before I do it, because you wanna sweat both sides at the same time. As my father used to say, there's no such thing as cold fusion. What I'm gonna do, you'll notice the flux is gonna all seep down, right? So I'm gonna get it heated up. I'm just gonna wipe the excess that dripped off. Now I did that a little uncarefully. You might wanna be a little more careful in the field, but. That hot. I'm just gonna do a quick wipe. And now, see, I have about my 3/4 inch left. And I'm just gonna swipe it. And I still got a little bit of a drip here, but it's not severe. And that's it, you just swipe it. And if you do get a drip, you can wipe up. Now, it's not perfect, but it's still not sloppy, and it's definitely not my best work. The other thing is, you don't want to hit it with the flux, really, and you don't want to hit it with a wet rag. You see how this stays all shiny?
Yeah.
Have you ever hit it with a wet rag?
Loses its shiny,
Yeah, it dulls out, is not as nice. I like to keep it very shiny and nice, and the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So not perfect. I did have a little bit of drip, but you know, it's still neat and it looks good.